Welcome to the pregame breakdown. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. And this is brought to you by the Pregame Network. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Shout out to Uncle Neely. All right, y'all. Well, it's been a minute. Uh, Unfortunately, I was down for a while. Came down. There's a bug going around Atlanta. Took a lot of people out. I was one of them. Yeah, your boy was sick and shut in, but God is good. I'm back. I think we missed You Tell Me this week with Uncle Neely traveling for the bowl, me being sick, Chico handling business with his family for Christmas week. But we're back. You'll see You Tell Me back this week, and the pregame breakdown is back. All right, now we get to break down BYU. BYU presents a very unique challenge, one of the more balanced teams in the entire country. Um, when you look at the way that they play complementary football, they want to pass the ball, but they want to pass the ball after they run it. You got a really big running back. LJ Martin is about 6'2", 230 pounds. Um, a low. They will throw the ball, but their guy in the backfield is LJ Martin. Now, with Martin, he's the type of guy you don't want to let him get started. When you get those big backs, I think it's really important. I'll never forget when Brandon Jacobs transferred to Auburn. I think my third year there. Brandon Jacobs comes to Auburn. He's 6'4", 240, 45 pounds then. Played in the league 6'4", 260, but he was just a massive unit. One of my good buddies. And but my best friend at the time, um, and one of my roommates both played in the secondary. And I asked them, I was like, bro, how do y'all stop a guy that big? And they said, you don't let him get started. Same thing for LJ Martin. You don't let guys like that get started. So the linebacker play is going to have to be good. And the defensive line, you want to see the penetration there for Colorado and to make sure that you keep LJ Martin at bay. He only had 630 yards on the season, but he did average over 5 yards a carry, which means that when he did get the ball, he did something with it. All right, my man, Retzloff was the guy, the trigger man. Oh, Jake Retzloff. Jake had one of those type of seasons where they allowed him to take chances. They do throw the ball. They like what he does with the ball in his hands. He had 20 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, which lets you know that he will turn it over. But they also protect him. He was only sacked 16 times on the season. Um, Took some chances, but he will let it go down the field, and they pick their spots. They'll lull you to sleep. They'll make you think they're just going short, hitches, drags, get a little, then they'll run LJ, then they'll hit you with some play action. Next thing you know, it'll be a trick play, and Retzloff is throwing the ball to Chase Roberts or Keelan Marion, and the BYU band is playing. So you can't take Retzloff lightly, but he will turn the ball over. I think that nobody has been able to get to him on a consistent basis. And as you know, with Colorado's Big 12 leading sack total for the year, their defensive line, they continue to get at you. It makes it pretty hard to play, and BYU does want to throw the ball. Now, what do I expect? Well, before I get there, let's talk about BYU's receivers. Chase Roberts had 51 catches for 843 yards this year, 4 touchdowns, had a long of 62 yards. When you see him, looks more like you won't think he's as fast as what he is. Moves, runs, has a really smooth running motion. Averaged almost 17 yards per catch. So when he gets the ball, he does something with it. You will see them throw a few screens every now and then to Roberts, but they do like he's another guy who can run every route on the route tree. Also has decent size. So that's somebody to watch. Darius Lassiter is somebody, Eastern Michigan transfer, 6'2", big receiver, big physical receiver. He was second on the team in catches and receiving stats, but he did have an unsportsmanlike penalty in his most recent game. So he will not be playing until the second half of this game. So remember that. If you see this big guy that they start throwing the ball to in the second half, that's Darius Lassiter, who's a heck of a player. Now, the X factor in this game is going to be Keelan Marion. Kid out of Atlanta, Georgia, played at Grayson High School. Always been a baller, can hoop too. Marion came from UConn. Tore it up out there. Then he goes to BYU, trains with Coach Steph. Shout out to Top Shelf Performance. Marion, outside of what he does when they do get the ball to him, they as far as in the passing and route concepts, I think he only has only caught maybe 23, 24 balls this year. But in the last two games, he got 4 carries the last game and 5 carries the game before that. Why? Because he is absolutely dynamic with the ball in his hands. First team All American kick returner. He has 2 touchdowns on the season. He was close to having about 5 this year. And I'll get to special teams later. But keep an eye on Keelan Marion when it comes to BYU and as far as how they get him the ball. They could get him the ball out of the backfield. Sometimes they'll put him in the backfield with LJ Martin, run some misdirection. Next thing you know, you'll see like a read option going to the right side. It'll be a reverse to Marion. And they just ran this against Houston the last game we saw them play. So they also turned it over on one of these plays. So just make sure you keep an eye on Keelan Marion. All right, so BYU's offense, they have some pieces, but they weren't as explosive as an offense. They were basically in the middle of the pack in all offensive categories in the Big 12 this year. They ranked between like 7 and 10 on most offensive categories that usually are good telltale signs of how the game or how the offense is going to play. But their thing is defense, led by defensive coordinator Jay Hill. Jay Hill, super well respected. Used to run the defense at Utah years ago. Went took a job at Weber State, the winningest coach in Weber State history. Um, Comes back to the Utah area. Now he's at BYU. The defense, man, one of the more complicated defenses in college football. And that's something that he said one of his own admissions. And it's particularly difficult for linebackers and safeties to pick up quick. But when BYU plays a really high IQ brand of football, especially up the alleyway. So the linebackers really smart. They want to confuse you. Safeties, they want to confuse you. Um, they basically run the defense. The defense flows through the cerebral nature of the linebackers and the safeties. They want to confuse you pre-snap. They want to give you different reads every time based on how you come out and what you do. Their base look is going to be 4-3. They like to play 3 linebackers, but we all know in the Big 12 you're not going to have a lot of opportunities to do that. But if you do have a tight end in, or you do have a fullback, or more than one person in the backfield, shotgun or not, you'll probably see them in a 4-3. You could have a safety hybrid guy as that third linebacker, but the preferred base is going to be a 4-3, and they'll switch out that outside backer for or probably the strong side backer or that Sam on their nickel packages. They'll either they have a specific nickel position. They also have a rover, but that's more the linebacker. But the nickel position is really going to be more of a defensive back that can tackle a box safety type guy or a box corner, slot corner, who more of a star, I think. But that's what their nickel is like. Now, to talk about what they do, they want to turn you over because of how many different looks they give you. They will run zone blitz with 2 high safeties. They'll run zone blitz. They'll bring zone pressure with 1 high safety. They'll run those plays concurrently. Boom. Right? Consecutively. Right after the other. So once you think you have a key, they'll come out zone 2 high, man, or they'll run a mix where they'll go zone right side, man left side, safety high, and still bring pressure. So it's going to be based on the calls from the linebackers and the safeties, and you're going to see guys flying in the backfield from all over the field. And but one particular loss that they do have is starting strong safety Crew Wakely, who could play. He was really good in coverage, had a timely game-stealing interception this year. Tackles really well. Crew Wakely in the transfer portal, and he will not be playing. So that's going to be interesting to see how they play without one of their defensive leaders. But yeah, man, the defense, Jay Hill does a really good job defensively, and it's going to be interesting to see how they try to confuse Shador pre-snap, and that's really what the read is going to be. I think the way to beat BYU is to understand their keys in game. Um, with how much switching they do, you really have to read once the snap goes. Once the ball is snapped, you have to really get through your progressions, and you can't guess. And I think that's going to be real important for Colorado is not to guess. Shador is so smart and patient that before a lot of times he knows where he's going with the ball pre-snap. Well, this is one of those games where Shador can really play his game, which is he makes good reads. They always say, "Oh, he holds the ball," but now he'll be able. But that this really bodes well for somebody who's comfortable in a pocket like Shador, because now he can look somebody off. He can take his time, understand is it truly man or is it zone against the defensive coordinator whose goal is to confuse you. So while they will play man, while they will play zone, while they do like to mix it up, athletically, they don't have the same amount of talent that Colorado does offensively. So this is the time for Colorado to come out, spread them out, right? And make them tell Shador what you're going to do. I think Shador is going to throw the ball a ton of times. Um, you will see the short game, which I think is really important for a team like this to kind of to get your keys. There's only so much you can do with a properly run tunnel or bubble screen, and they tell you a lot about the defense, how fast they bite. And so once you go to once you run those routes, you run those plays, then you're able to run the wheel off of that, or you're able to run the slant from the wide side. So once you're able to start seeing keys that they give you based on running tunnels and bubbles, it's going to help you a lot to kind of determine what you'll do and how you can attack down the field vertically based on those looks or those keys that they give you and how they defend that short game. So that's going to be one of the chess matches that you see within the game is how BYU defends the tunnel. Do they go man? Do they sit in the cover? And do they sit in a temp or two? Are they telling the corners to be aggressive? Are they leaving the safeties back? Are they dropping that safety down? So it's a lot to see and a lot to think about when it comes to the tunnel and the short passing game of Colorado, which they run so well. All right, we talked about the X factor earlier being Keelan Marion, but man, special teams for BYU has been very special this year. When you have All American, you have a great kicker, um, one of the best kickers in the country, and you also have Keelan Marion, who is a first team All American at kick return. So I think that's going to be important for Colorado too to make sure that you're using your special teams in a way where you're not putting yourself in a bad position. We've seen uh, big returns time after time this year against the Buffalo. So this is the time that you want to clean that up. Shit, if you got to, man, kick it out of bounds. Don't. Hey, Marion will make you pay. So he's one of the guys that you want to you kick it away from him if possible. You want to make plays as well, but you're gonna need hang time, and if you can, man, kick it out of the end zone if you can. But it's gonna be really important to make sure you hold their special teams at bay. All things being said, um, got some key injuries. I think the biggest matchup is Retzloff hasn't been touched a lot, and BYU will be playing their third string right tackle. The starter won't be playing. The backup, Isaiah Jada, won't be playing. So now you're on your third string right tackle. I think it's going to be really important for those guys, that defensive line, to tee off and get the rest off. And I think that makes the game simple. I don't think BYU can score with Colorado. I keep seeing pundits saying that they want to kind of employ Retzloff in more of a running role, the way that Daniels did at Kansas, where you saw them keep Colorado off balance uh, from an offensive perspective, where Colorado's defense could never get a bead on what they needed to be doing or how to stop that offense. I think that's going to be where you see BYU kind of lean into. But none of that matters if you're getting pressure and you're tackling well. So you don't have Devin. Now, all respect to LJ Martin, but he's not as dynamic as a Devin Neal. So I think if you get a hat on him, um, but you can't wait till 5, 6 yards down the field to get a hat on him. You got to be aggressive, and then you also got to make sure that when Retzlaff does throw the ball, you're putting some pressure on him. But I think if Colorado does that, and I think that's the key matchup in the game. If you protect special teams, don't give up a special team score when it comes to the return game. You limit uh, how much you give up in the run game, and you get to the quarterback. I don't think that BYU could keep up with Colorado offensively. And so if I were to make a prediction, my last prediction of the year, give me Colorado over BYU 35-21. Um, in a game that you see Colorado start fast for once this year. I think they really do want to start fast. So I think this is the game they finally put it all together. They start fast and they coast into a 10-win season. All right, y'all. Thank you for my time today. Thank you for your time. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you got the scoop hat. Reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter. Find out how to get your scoop with Duke's hat. And make sure you go to my YouTube channel at Duke's the Scoop, where you can also find You Tell Me simulcast there on Monday nights. Shout out to Uncle Neely once again. Much love.